Professionals Association for SIRA, and I will be the moderator for your conference today. On behalf of the SPA, we welcome you to this awareness Zoom conference at these difficult times we are all going through as the result of the pandemic of COVID-19. The conference objective is to highlight the roles and responsibilities of the private security industry in combating the effects of this virus, as well as setting precautionary measures and good practices to be adopted by you at present and in the future, according to the specific nature of your organization. To that end, we have invited independent, distinguished international experts in the field to present to you their professional thoughts, ideas, and findings in relation to our fight against COVID-19. The topics that will be addressed today by our three experts are use of thermal cameras, use of sterilization gates and tunnels, control visitors to shopping malls and hotels. Before I introduce you to our speakers and the SIRA panel, I would like to call upon Engineer Muhammad Saleh from SIRA Technical and Operation Directorate, who is actually the brain behind the setting up of the technical side of this Zoom conference, to explain to you the use of the different functions of this software for the benefit of those who are not familiar with it, to enable you to post your questions and respond to the questionnaire to the panel and the question and answer session after the presentation. So I call upon Engineer Muhammad Saleh, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just 1 second, please. I'll be swapping my screen. So welcome everybody again. Just I'm displaying for you the steps for asking the question and polling. So to choose in the polling, there is two options. If you are using from the PC, then you can see it here in the red arrow downside. You can just choose it, and Mr. Adil Hadi, inshallah, will announce when we'll start the polls, so you can choose the answer. And if you are using the phone, it either will pop up on your screen, like it's here in the left side, or it will give you a notification the phone, if you can see it on the left side. On Android, it will show it downside. On iPhone, it might appear on the top side, left side. For asking questions for the presenter, you can simply, if you are using the PC, tap the chat button. Then you have to choose everyone and just write the message and send it. If you are using a phone, you can simply go to more, choose chat. The same thing, you have to choose everyone and send a message, and it will be forwarded to the presenters. Thank you, everybody. Adil, it's with you.
Thank you, Engineer Muhammad. Thank you for the explanation. Now I would like to introduce to you Mr. Engineer Khalid Al-Hamadi, the Chairman of Security Professionals Association for SIRA, in his welcome speech to our SPA members and guests. Engineer Khalid.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dear SPA members, Security Professionals Association, SPA, for the security industry regulatory agency welcomes you to our first online conference. I trust you and your families are all keeping well and safe during this difficult time. Following the outbreak of coronavirus disease, COVID-19 globally, SPA management put on hold any events and training until further notice. While we regret any inconvenience that our decision may have caused, we are still committed to connect with the security professionals of all levels and benefit from a learning environment that fosters a collaborative and competitive security industry. That said, we are taking an initiative to present COVID-19 awareness to the security professionals in Dubai, titled Security Role Against COVID-19, to cover 3 topics: use of thermal cameras, use of sterilization gates, control of visitors to shopping malls and hotels. Once again, we extend a very warm welcome to you and are pleased to have you as a member of SPA for SIRA on our journey to becoming the voice of the security industry in the UAE and in the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Khalid, for your speech. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our program for this afternoon is going to be in 3 sessions. Our first session, which is going to be the use of thermal camera, will be presented by Engineer Paul Tennant. He's the MD of Tentec Training and Consultancy in the UK, certified technical security professional. Paul has over 30 years experience in video surveillance industry. He's also a prominent member of the technical security system community and advisor to the UK government and other international government bodies such as SIRA, SIA, and BSIA. So it's the use of thermal cameras. Mr. Paul Tennant, please.
Well, thank you for the introduction, Hadi, and a good morning or afternoon from an unusually warm and very sunny UK. Firstly, I would like to thank the SPA and SIRA for organising this seminar. I do hope you all find the information informative and at times thought-provoking. Today, I have the pleasure in talking to you all about a very topical subject, thermal cameras and heat detection. Thermal is not new. In fact, the technology has been used in the security industry for over 30 years, mainly for perimeter detection and law enforcement. A thermal camera works by detecting and measuring the infrared radiation emanating from objects. In other words, all objects, organic or inorganic, emit a certain amount of infrared radiation as a function of their temperature. The heat signature then assigns each temperature a shade of colour, which lets you see how much heat is radiating compared to the objects around it. Typically, colder areas are shown in blue and hotter areas can be a shade of red, orange, or yellow. As you may have read in the news, many high-profile organisations are starting to use this technology as the first line of defence, scanning people for elevated body temperature. For example, Heathrow Airport Terminal 2 have just announced that they will start screening people using thermal imaging cameras for all passengers who enter the UK. They aim to spot those who have a sign of fever, which, as you all know, is one of the common symptoms of COVID-19. The technology and its use is not limited to one area and can be utilised in most applications. These include airports, hotels, sporting stadia, transport, hospitals, and many more. The outbreak of COVID-19 virus has presented a huge challenge to adapt existing technologies and innovate and deploy newer ones. The use of thermal imaging has been a particular focus, with sales increasing dramatically across the world. I just want to talk about the two main types of heat detection systems. The first one is by measuring the temperature of the tear duct, or the inner corner of the eye, as shown in the bottom left-hand side of your screen, which correlates closely to the core body temperature. Research studies and indeed the ISO standards both reference that the best correlation to the core body temperature is the tear duct. This makes sense because it is smaller and more protected than the surface of your skin. In addition, the tear duct is typically the hottest part of the face, making it easy to have an infrared camera lock onto that location. These screening cameras work at close proximity to the individual and has to be used in a very controlled manner to get the optimum results. I do have to point out that thermal cameras cannot image through glass. So knowing that the best correlation to the core body temperature is the tear duct, it is essential when the people are being screened to take off their glasses as part of the screening process. The other type is that it measures the temperature of a person's face, either the forehead or cheeks, as they pass by, and is ideal for scanning multiple people. These cameras can automatically detect the surface skin temperature on a non-contact basis. They can indicate that a detected temperature falls outside of the pre-configured range, which does provide the first line of screening. And also it can screen a high volume of people in a short time frame. As the forehead is a good place to measure, they are susceptible to environmental influences. They are impacted by a number of factors, such as head coverings and hats. For example, if someone takes off their hat before screening, you will see a warm band across the forehead, which could trigger an unwanted alarm. As with any system, installation is critical, as environmental factors could affect the results, i.e. windows, heat sources, lighting, for instance. Halogen bulbs generate a huge amount of heat, and air conditioning, all which can affect the temperature reading. The international standards do state that faces should be parallel to the camera. So the plane of the lens of the infrared camera should be parallel to the face and in line with the target. If this is not done, the face and the camera are not aligned properly, errors of up to 1 degree centigrade can be introduced. These errors are usually lower than the temperature value measured. A calibrated temperature reference is highly recommended to be placed in the field of view during the measurement. The reference source, also referred to as a black body, allows the imaging software to calibrate the scene to a more precise value by providing a higher accuracy reference. The black body needs to be located at the same distance from the camera as the face that is being imaged. So, can they detect COVID-19? The simple answer is no. Whilst this technology could be helpful for screening and detect elevated body temperature, it is common to see body temperature different from person to person due to activity level, diet, gender, and age. It is also perfectly normal to see body temperature differ on an individual basis due to the time of day. Also, I must point out that most systems do have a variance. Even in perfect conditions, this could be plus or minus 0.3 degrees centigrade. Such a variance could put you in the fever zone, or more importantly, preclude you from it. So just to recap, thermal imaging camera is a very, very useful tool for the initial screening. Environmental factors can influence skin temperatures. Installation is crucial to get the optimum results. And body temperatures can vary depending on a number of factors. And last but not least, although thermal cameras can detect elevated body temperatures, it cannot diagnose COVID-19. Well, thank you for your attention. I hope, and I know there will be lots of questions, which I believe will be fielded at the end of all presentations. So many thanks and stay safe.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Paul. It's a very informative presentation. Do appreciate that. However, there is a question come to mind, and I wonder if you can answer us. Can thermal cameras be used for facial recognition?
The simple answer is no. Thermal imaging, the pixels, the resolution is not great. However, there are manufacturers that have an optical camera built into the same housing, or indeed you can use another camera with facial recognition software that you can link into your management system. So you can have both the detection of the heat, the temperature of each individual, and the facial recognition combined.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Just a point, please, for all participants. There, I can see a lot of messages coming through, which is greeting messages. We have over 450 participants in this. So you can imagine 450 greeting messages. So please refrain from sending greeting messages, and let's stick to sending only questions. There is no raising of hands for questions. It's only posting your questions in the chat box. Now I would like to introduce you to our second expert speaker, Ms. Reem Hassan. She is the head of Security System and Equipment Testing Lab. She will be presenting to you the use of sterilization gates and tunnels. Ms. Reem, please.
Thank you, Mr. Adil. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are doing fine and staying safe. Let me just share my presentation so I can start. As we all know, coronavirus, or as they name it later on, COVID-19, is spreading a panic all around the world. In conjunction with this, many products swept the market. One of these products is a sterilization gate. So today I'll speak a little bit more about the sterilization gate. First of all, what does a sterilization gate mean? How this gate works? what's the gate feature and what's the positive and negative about this product. Let me just define it in a simple way. It's a room in the form of a passage or a gate, as you can see in the picture attached. Once the person will enter this gate, there will be a kind of spraying sterilizer to get the person sterilized, okay? We can see the gate in a different ways or a different forms. I will not speak more about the kind of forms. Let's go to how this gate work. As we can see in the picture, the person will go toward that gate. Once he will enter inside it, a spray will spread that sterilizing material. The person should rotate a 360 degrees, so we can ensure that he will be sterilized as maximum as possible. Once he will finish that process, he will just go out from that sterilization gate. This process will take around 10 to 15 or sometimes 20 seconds. It depends on the manufacturer design. Let's speak now a little bit more about the feature. Not all kind of sterilization gates have the same feature, but the most and the common standard feature is all that sterilization gate have a sterilizer spray. As we can see in the first picture, some development gates have other feature like temperature reading feature, alarm device, and security cameras. This is to make it more helpful or to just make it advanced more. Let's go to speak about the most important thing. What's the positive and the negative of this product? This kind of gates will help us to sterilize the clothes. This is the first positive thing. Broadcast or give you more comfort and reassurance that you are not passing and going and walking with that virus. But let's speak more about the negative of this product. This product can affect our respiratory system. Why I say that it can affect our respiratory system? As we all know, these sterilization products have a high percentage of alcohol. For example, if I'm a person and I'm crossing that gate every day, let's say once a day, let's say twice a day. Let's go to the minimum thing, which is the first option, 1 time a day. If we will go to the work 7 days or 5 days a week, I will have to cross that sterilization gate 2 times. Once I enter my work and once I will go out from that department. Let's say we cross that one. Okay, that spray will spread. If we breathe it, for example, we don't know if we can just walk in. Yes, it takes a few minutes, or as we can see, a few seconds, but it can affect if we breathe it. Let's say we will breathe it once, second, third time. This can affect our respiratory system. The second thing, it can eliminate virus corona? No. Why we cannot say that it can eliminate the virus? The virus lives inside us, not in our clothes. So if the person is having coronavirus, how this gates can affect, or how this gate can be affecting in this case. The third thing, sterilization time. As we know, clothes are made in different fabric, and each fabric will take a different time to be sterilized. No one can determine that time. So, can we say this product is a useful one? To support my idea, as we just heard nowadays, the World Health Authority organizations speak about this product and say that spraying sterilizer can harm human being, as I said before. Other thing, this kind of product is not used for eyes and respiratory system. As I mentioned before, the person will go through that sterilization gate. Once he will enter, he have to stay for a 10 to 15 minutes. He have to rotate in 360 degree. He cannot breathe this time. He will stay without breathing. How come? He have to breathe. That means the spray will go in his respiratory system. As I said also before, and they mention it again, it cannot eliminate coronavirus because coronavirus lives inside us, not in the surface or in the equipment. As the newest reports came from Berlin laboratory, they say that they tested coronavirus people houses who was affected by corona. They went to their houses and tried to find that virus crossing the house, but they did not find anything, even in the surfaces. That means coronavirus cannot live in the surface. To sum up, I don't think that a sterilization gate is a useful way to eliminate coronavirus. We have other solutions can be more effective. These gates, we will spend lots of money. And what's the most important thing? We don't want to harm people. We want to eliminate the risk of harming persons. If we eliminate, or if we say that we will use these products, we cannot let kids to go inside these gates, because as we know, kids are not like us. They will not understand the main points that we will tell them or the instruction. The other things, older people who is above 16 or people who have respiratory system issues, this can affect them more and more and make their disease become worse and worse. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much indeed, Reem. I just have a question for you. Is that I'm aware that you have conducted a lot of research into the sterilization gates and tunnels.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, from your findings, how effective it is to be used, and does it really eliminate the viruses, or is it just something which is people that got to be seen to be using it?
As I said before, I don't think that this kind of gate is useful, or it can eliminate as much as it was said. As I said to you in my presentation, I think this is an economy device that people will waste their money, and it will not eliminate the effect of coronavirus.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Just a quick reminder, we have a panel at the end of the question and answer session, which is going to involve the 3 speakers as well as 4 directors from SIRA, the heads of the departments, and they will be answering all questions. And now, for our last but not least speaker, Detective Chief Inspector Brian Tarby, retired from New Scotland Yard, and he's a senior security consultant in the UK at present. His topic is going to be covering the control of visitors to shopping malls and hotels. Over to you, Brian.
Thank you very much indeed, Hadi. Good morning and good afternoon to everybody on the call. I'd like to, I'm very grateful to SIRA for giving me the opportunity this morning to talk to you all. What I'd like to do is to talk to you in terms of how as we start to come out of the lockdown situations in each country, how we can control how our citizens and residents will react when they start to rebuild their lives and start going back to shopping malls and hopefully to hotels. So over the course of the last few months, the world has encountered an unprecedented attack on our daily lives and the way that we react and live with each other. Some countries in the world have fared better than others. Every country has experienced death and the sorrow that that brings for its citizens. However, we now must look to the future and learn how we can live and begin to rebuild our society, while the scientists around the world collaborate to try and find a vaccine for COVID-19. Dubai has recognised that we must start to rebuild. Dubai is one of the most technically advanced cities in the world, and with the underlying principal objective to protect its citizens and residents and stop the spread of the virus, it is working in cooperation with technology to achieve this. And it's doing that by initiating the following mitigating measures at its shopping malls and hotels. It must be remembered that these measures are not written in law, but are there as a guidance to be followed. I'd first like to go over the mitigating factors as they relate to shopping malls. So, age restrictions. Dubai has decreed that there must be no visitors over the age of 60 years of age and no children between the ages of 3 and 12 to be allowed to visit the shopping malls. It's quite a progressive step, but the reasoning behind that is that people in this age group, especially the over 60s, are more vulnerable to the more debilitating effects of contracting COVID-19. And obviously we want to try and stop our younger citizens from catching the virus and spreading it. So those age restrictions will come into force, so nobody over the age of 60 or between the ages of 3 and 12 would be allowed to visit the shopping malls. Employee testing. All employees who work in the mall must undertake a test for COVID-19. Now, we've heard from Paul already how this can be achieved by thermal imaging and seeing if any of the employees are showing at least one of the signs of COVID. Of course, as has been explained fully, high temperature is not necessarily an indication that person has got COVID. However, it is an indicator, and it could then require further testing. In addition to this, and with a view to protecting the employees who work at the shopping malls, all employees must wear face masks and wear protective gloves, and they must change them on a regular basis. In a further bid to protect the employees, any purchases which are made at the malls will not be refunded unless the goods themselves are defective. So in other words, if somebody's bought a shirt and it's the wrong colour or the wrong size, then this item won't be refunded, and the person will have to keep it. And the reasoning behind that is quite simple, in that this cuts down the risk of transmitting the virus on clothing back into the workforce. So we've also heard this morning how technology is being used to help detect the virus. So the malls will use technology to measure the temperature of people entering the malls. If there are any high temperatures detected on the visitors, then they must be taken to the special isolation room, where they will be seen by a health professional, and further inquiries and investigations can be conducted by the health professional to determine the visitors' state of health, But what has happened is that they've been taken away from the environment where they could possibly spread the virus. There must be sufficient hand cleansers. So contactless hand sanitizers must be provided at the entrance of the malls. And this must be signposted and made aware in a clear and obvious way, so that people know when they come into the malls, they can cleanse their hands from that moment on. One of the most important aspects is the restriction on numbers. The mall must commit to ensuring that the number of visitors in the mall does not exceed 30% of their stated capacity, and social distancing measures are maintained. Now, this can be aided, but again, by the use of technology. CCTV cameras can be used to monitor any crowds or groups of people who are clearly in breach of the social distancing measures, and action can be taken based on what they can see. But it is vital that social distancing is maintained while people are in the mall. Of course, the other important aspect is that once the visitors are in the mall, each individual shop or restaurant must also ensure that their visitors and customers are kept to below the 30% capacity. Now, this means that it's incumbent on each premises within the mall to ensure that they're able to control the entrances and exits from their premises. And again, this will need to be taken into consideration. There needs to be and ensure that there are separate entrances and exit points into the mall. Now, this correlates to the last point in terms of the numbers. These entrances and exit points must be controlled, and there must be a monitoring system in place to ensure that the numbers inside the mall do not exceed the 30%. In addition, the entrance and exit points must be separated. At the very least, if it is the same entrance and exit point, then there needs to be a separation, at least by plastic screening. This will ensure that there is again the lack of contact between people who are coming in and leaving the mall to avoid any further spread of potential virus. There can be no valet parking or car washing services. The danger in doing that is that there's too much contact between any number of different people, and this could again spread the virus. In addition, and going back to controlling numbers, car parking must be reduced to 25% of its maximum spaces. Two reasons for that. First of all, it allows social distancing to take place when people are getting in and out of their cars, but it also ensures that overcrowding is avoided, overcrowding in the malls. And the last point there, shopping carts. Purchases that are made using shopping carts, once the cart has been finished with and the customer is putting it back, that shopping cart must be sterilised before another customer or visitor takes the same shopping cart out. Again, unless people, or even if people are wearing gloves, it's possible to spread the virus on the surfaces of the shopping cart. Okay, I'd now like to concentrate on the second area, hotels. Again, this is an area where, as society gets back to a kind of norm, we're going to expect to see an uptake in the amount of people using hotels. So guests at hotels. I'll deal first of all, when a guest has checked out of their room from the hotel, that room must be left vacant for a period of 24 hours before that room is allowed to be occupied by a new guest. If during that period of 24 hours, that previous guest has come down with symptoms or has been detected as having COVID-19, then that room must be taken out of service for a period of 72 hours. And during that period, the room must undergo deep cleaning and cleansing before it is taken on by another guest. Now again, with the use of technology, the hotel authorities can be made aware in a short period of time that a guest who has just left them has unfortunately developed the symptoms of COVID-19. And this will assist in the hotel management to ensure that that room is not rented out to another guest until it's been cleansed and a time lapse of 72 hours has passed. This is how technology is able to assist in beating and stopping the spread of the virus. Let's move on to the use of the facilities at the hotels. The guests that stay at the hotels will not be allowed to use the swimming pools, the gym, sauna, massage room, or any of the kids' clubs. The obvious threat to the spread of virus using any of those facilities is pretty obvious. It also would be very difficult to maintain social distancing in saunas and gyms, and they're exactly the type of area which is ripe for the virus to spread. In terms of buffet dining, unfortunately, it would be our recommendation that there is no buffet dining allowed. Again, this would present guests with the opportunity of coming into close contact with each other, and in line with social distancing, that must be ruled out as far as possible. The private beaches. So the private beaches that belong to the hotels must be for the strict use of the guest only. Those guests must use their own towel from their rooms. And again, the reasoning for that is that the towels, if they were to use communal towels or towels that are normally given out for beach use, then there's no guarantee that the last person that used them didn't have the virus, and the threat that it hasn't been cleaned to a sufficient standard, and we really don't know how difficult or easy it is to get rid of the virus from things like towels. So therefore it eliminates the possibility of spreading the virus. The other aspect to remember is that the outside showers on the beaches must not be used. Again, the obvious reasoning behind that is that splashes from people's bodies could end up spreading the virus. While on the beaches, there must be no groups of more than 10 people. And those groups of up to 10 people can only take place if those people are from the same household. If they are not from the same household, then social distancing measures must be adhered to. High touch points. So this is an important area to stop the spread of this virus. There must be enhanced cleaning of high touch points. And by that, I mean areas such as reception and lobby areas, restaurant entrances, and elevator landing areas. These are all places that many people will gather and may touch surfaces, and therefore enhanced cleaning will at least try to cut down the risk of the virus being spread. And finally, hand cleansing. There must be sufficient hand sanitizers available in all of the high touch areas which I've just mentioned. Again, this will remind people to wash their hands or to clean their hands and at least try and stop the spread of the virus or potential spread of the virus. We believe that by instigating these measures and reinforcing the message through the use of awareness posters displayed at significant places and graphics designed to remind everyone of the need to use social distancing, together with the regular use of cleansers. Dubai will protect its citizens and residents and stop the spread of the virus, whilst at the same time allowing its citizens and residents to start rebuilding their lives in a safe environment. Thank you for that, and I'll be very happy to take questions.
Thank you very much indeed, Brian. And I do actually have a question for you. Is that how often should employees in different organizations have to be tested? Is it on a daily basis? Is it more than once a day? And how that can be achieved?
Thank you, Helio. That's a very good question, because it really goes to the heart of the matter. So my personal view is that would really depend on what the testing mechanism is. If we go back to the examples that have been spoken about already this morning, and the high temperature test, that's an indicator. It's a good indicator in some cases that somebody is ill, but they could have other reasons for having that temperature. If at the very least that is the test that is taken, that has to take place, then that must be done at least daily for employees who are going to be together with a lot of other people and the potential to spread the virus. That must be the first indicator. There are, as you know, there are many other ways in which people can be tested, and I know here in the UK, testing can be done. It can be done at home. It can be done in mobile testing areas. But the swabs that you need to do to take those tests then need to be analysed, and of course that can take time. I think in the UK we've got that down to 24 hours, but of course that's a day later. So at the very least, we need to be testing people using thermal cameras as a first indicator, and that needs to be done every day.
Thank you very much indeed, Brian. Thank you very much indeed for the presentation and answering the question. And now we have reached our final part of this conference, which is the question and answer session. We have quite a few questions that keeps on arriving. And just to remind you, the panel for the question, beside Mr. Paul Tennant, Reem Hassan, and Brian Tarby, our speakers, we also have engineer Arif Al-Janahi, who is the Security Operations Services Director. Okay. We have Ahmed Al-Balushi, he's the Security Cadre Training Center Director, Majid Al-Zal'ouni, Security Licensing Services Director, and Khalid Al-Hamadi, Security System Compliance Center Director, as well as, of course, he is the SPA Chairman. So I will start with Engineer Arif Al-Janahi. There's quite a few questions for him here. Okay. Is there at all thermal cameras? Are they mandatory? Okay. And what is your opinion or the law about use of cloud storage as the SIRA guidelines?
Question, hi Adel, hi everybody. Question one regarding thermal cameras being mandatory. No, it's not mandatory. It's recommended. SIRA will be publishing a guideline and precautionary measures by all the entities which is under the law to how to measure how to scan the visitors. So one of them is the choice of using thermal camera and other choices, and it's up to the establishment owner to do it. Secondly, regarding cloud usage of CCTV or VSS, till now there's no approval on using cloud But the good news is that SIRA allows remote monitoring of the establishment. We have done a decision a few months back that the establishment owner can view remotely his establishment, and that is allowed under certain permission from SIRA. They have to apply online and by email, and we can give it to them. And that's it. That's the second question.
The use of storage, cloud storage.
Yeah, cloud storage is not permitted till now. We are not allowing cloud storage. Local storage is more practical, more robust, and more reliable. The issue with the cloud is reliability, and the cloud is you've been out of the secure zone.
Thank you for that. My next question is actually for Reem. There is observation that supermarkets are installing tunnels and gates. What are the chemicals being used in these tunnels and gates, and are they harmful to children and people over the age of 60?
Yes, Mr. Ati. Adel. Regarding this, I think that we have to do more research about this kind of gates because there is, as I said before, we cannot say that it's harmful or not harmful. We have to know each product, how it works. These supermarkets may use the simple way. The simple way will not be harmful if we use it for one time. For example, if you will go for the supermarket, you will go once a day. You will not go every day to that market. So you will be affected by the sterilization spray for a small period of time.
Okay, that's superb. I have a question here for Mr. Khalid Al-Hamadi. Is there any specific brand being approved by the Compliance Center for thermal cameras?
We have approved several brands, but we cannot announce it because it's a business matter. So anyone can bring the brands they want to use, and we will test that for them.
So it's open, so any distributor can bring the brand for testing?
Yes.
And to be approved?
Yes.
Excellent. Right, question to Brian. What do you think if somebody is detected entering a hotel or a mall and he's got a high temperature, okay, what should be the next action in that hotel or the mall? Should every organization have an isolation room there by law, or what should they do? Send them away?
Okay, well, that's a good question because clearly it's a practical question that needs to be addressed. So my view is that there should be an isolation room in all buildings or in businesses where they are likely to receive people from outside. Obviously, I've discussed malls. The same would be true for hotels, but it's probably prudent that office buildings should have an isolation room as well. So it would be, the wrong course of action would be to turn the person away, because that potentially spreads the virus if they've got it. And the important thing to do is to deal with the person that is showing the symptoms. My personal view is that they should be taken to the isolation room, and then there should be a suitably qualified medical practitioner sent to deal with that. Whether that would be somebody that is there on a permanent basis, I guess would depend on the premises. Or at the very least, the paramedics or the ambulances should be sent to deal with the person. But I think each organisation needs to take responsibility if they've detected potentially someone with the virus, and take some immediate action to remedy that.
Thank you very much. I've got a question, and I think this question should be shared between Engineer Arif and Brian. You know, they're talking about 30% numbers of allowed into any shopping mall, for example. Shopping malls have probably between 7 and 14 entrances. How do we actually control that number? How do we know that 30% have actually entered into these establishments?
Okay, would you like? I'm quite happy to answer that. I think one of the most obvious ways of controlling this is to shut down some of the entrances, or make them, if you've got whatever number of entrances you have, is to alternate them between entrances and exits. That way you don't have people passing each other in the entrance while others are exiting. So you could have a kind of a one-way system that's clearly marked and designated as entrance only, exit only. That would be the first step. Second step is that you will definitely need to use technology again. There are apps available which could be utilized to count the people in and count the people out. And in this way, just by a central monitoring system, would quickly be able to ascertain that they are either close to or they've exceeded their 30% capacity. And then the entrances would need to be closed down. The car parks would need to be shut until sufficient people have left that would reduce the capacity. Of course, what that could mean at peak periods is that you'll have people queuing outside, and then you need to be aware of, or they need to be aware of, the social distancing measures. So it may well be that you'll need to put markers at 2 meter distances, 2 meter intervals, to allow people to stand on those markers before they're allowed into the shopping mall or other business area. It's not easy, but it's vital to stay within those limits.
Well, what will actually happen if you have an emergency evacuation and you lock some of the entrances to the shopping mall? I'll put that to Arif. You got the same question because it's very important. There's so many of the participants actually asking this question. Please.
Okay, answering the first question, I'm adding to Brian's notes, is that the government has put a certain number of occupancy in vehicles, and the malls use that one to calculate the 30% of the parkings to be opened, the number of parkings based on the occupants of the cars. So the malls maybe are opening 10% of their they are opening 10% of their parking. The occupancy of the vehicle as the government closing up the mute because there's a lot of noise coming. Added, yeah, can you mute it, please? Okay, and secondly is that closing up the doors. These are difficult times. These are an emergency time, so all of things must have some kind of measure. So the use of security guards here is a big role. Secondly is that a lot of the malls, according to the municipality rules, they have a side emergency exit, one-way door, which takes from inside outside. So the closing of the sliding doors or the other doors will help a lot. Second is that the malls should put a signage before the bottleneck happens to the doors. Each door has a corridor towards it. It should be blocked from there, not from the door itself. And signage plays a big role in this pandemic, as is shown. I mean, signage on the floor, signage on the wall, signage helps a lot. So that's conclude the question. Unmute. Adil, unmute. You are muted.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much indeed. My next question is for Paul Tennant. Okay. Do we actually need black body when installing thermal cameras?
Yeah, good question. It was in the presentation that it is highly recommended to install the black body, as it will give a more accurate reading. There are manufacturers claiming they do not need a black body as the temperature difference is small. But I do feel personally that although it adds cost to an installation, it will give the best results.
Well, another question, just to follow on from that, how do you overcome the restrictions of the height of an individual? Again, it's a fixed camera.
Sorry, say again, it just broke up, sorry.
If you have a fixed camera up there and you got the different height of individuals, how do you overcome it?
Yeah, again, for the thermal cameras, there is a height where they say the height of the camera needs to be installed so it's in the same plane as the target. So it cannot be mounted high up, pointing down due to the inaccuracies of the reading. The suggestion is around 2 meters high or just under parallel to the face target.
Thank you very much. Now I have actually a question for Mr. Ahmed Al-Balushi, the director of the training center. Mr. Ahmed, we appreciate that opening the center at the moment is actually depends on government recommendations and when the government is actually going to open fully and what percentage. But have you considered using online courses, the mandatory courses to be done online?
Good afternoon, Mr. Adil. Yes, we are looking on making an online courses with our partners, and inshallah it will be there. Yani.
So there are plans to actually put the mandatory courses online?
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. Now we go to the licensing end. Mr. Majid Al-Zaruni. The question is, how do you apply for security guard license during this period of pandemic?
Hello, everybody. Adil, yes, for security guards, they can apply now as normal as they did before through our portal. Just instead of providing the certificate of the training, they can go to any training center, which is authorized from SIRA, and pay for the course and submit and upload the payment receipt instead of the certificate. And we will approve the license for them. But then after Corona period, they have to go to the training center and take the course.
And that will be for new for new guards, for example. What about the existing guards for renewal of their licenses?
For the renewal, it's the same measurement that what we did before. Only the fitness test, they have to do the same thing. So they have to go and pay for the fitness test and upload again the payment receipt and take the test after a Corona period.
Another question for you, Majid. Are the offices of SIRA actually open to receive visitors, or are you doing everything remotely at the moment?
No, for the time being, we have everything online and through our portal. There is our hotline is there, and there is certain emails that we dedicated for all the questions regarding of licensing. Okay, but maybe in the future, we will open partially the offices as per appointments. It is there. We have to see how we can do it, what is the procedure for it. But for the time being, it is all online.
Thank you very much. I've got a question here that should be shared between Arif and Mr. Paul Tennant. Can thermal cameras endanger the health of people like pregnant women, heart patient, asthma patient, or similar?
Well, I can answer that. Can it have an effect on them? No, it doesn't, because the thermal camera is measuring the infrared that is coming out. It's not emitting anything out. So it's only measuring. It's like a normal camera that measures reflection of light. Thermal cameras measure the heat, because the heat is translated in a different way as an IR. So that's what is measuring. So there's no effect on anybody because it's not emitting anything.
Paul, you got an addition to that?
No, it's yeah, good answer. Yes, it doesn't harm because you emit infrared and it just detects that. So.
Yeah.
Okay. A question for Engineer Arif. What are the tests that are to be conducted on employees? Somebody entering in the building, because people are asking is what test did they use? They just check the temperature and that's it? Or is there any other measures or precautionary measures that SIRA would recommend for employers to use on their employees?
The government has provided test swipe stations. It's not practical to test every day those swipes because the incubation time of the virus is 2 weeks. So it will not work. So during, the company can do to their employees that to scan them once, especially the employees that are getting in contact with a lot of people. And during the normal days is to do the temperature scan. Okay, regarding the temperature scan, there's a lot of questions coming up. Do we use a thermal camera or we use what? What I say is that it depends on the establishment, how many people, how many throughput. It's different anywhere else. The measuring, which is the infrared measuring device, my recommendation is don't buy the ones off the shelf or buy one which are calibrated, certified. Lately in the market, there is a big quantity which is counterfeit temperature devices. You press once, it's 36, you press twice, 37, then it goes 28, 40, then it goes back to the cycle again. We have seen that. The Department of Economic Development is checking, but it still is coming in. So we prefer that you use a high quality calibrated device. It's much better than that, because the range of temperature to detect a person is infected or not is very minimal, 2 degrees, 3 degrees. But if you have an error there, you're going to do a lot of hassle of quarantining the person, and later on you have to do the swipe. That's all waste of money and time. So the first measure of temperature should be from a calibrated device. Same as the thermal camera, the black box. The black box is a controlled temperature source, which will give you specifically if the thermal camera is working as it should. As all of us in the industry, we all know that a lot of manufacturers' data sheets are not actually true. So they will give you 0.2, 0.1%, 0.1 or 0.2 plus or minus deviation, but the true temperature is different and according to the conditions. So if anybody would like to protect their employees, please encourage them to stay at home, less contact with people, and to use calibrated measurements. I would like to emphasize one thing. We are all in this together. A person's mistake will affect others which are innocent of his mistake. So stay home, protect yourself, do the precautionary measurements that are announced by the government, and you will stay safe, يعني, inshallah. Be very careful of what you are contacting with, be careful, very careful who you are touching with, and stay home. You know who's staying with you home, but when you go outside, there's a possible of cross-contamination. So the government is giving a very clear instruction regarding that. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I've got a question here, which I think could be shared between Majid and Khalid. Can they get renewal for SIRA audit certificate to all projects in Dubai, auto renewal for the time being? Or is that something that is coming in the future? Or what are the concessions that are being given to companies out there regarding the audit of the premises?
The audit, we accept requests now, and we are doing a site visiting for a certain sites. So any company, they can apply for an audit if they require that for their renewal of their trade license.
In regards of licensing, we will be a little bit flexible in regards of the requirements. So if there is a lot of requirements to be done, we will give a little bit period of time because of the current situation.
Mr. Hadi, the mic is off.
Say that a general question here is say, why don't we have controlled social distancing during buffet, just like malls and supermarkets?
Well, I'll try and answer that. That's an option, but it would depend, I guess, on the amount of people who wanted to attend the buffet at any one time. Unless everybody, then again, unless everybody is wearing gloves, they're going to be picking up spoons and forks and serving their plates, and there is the potential to spread the virus that way. It's something that can be avoided, but a lot more measures would need to be taken before you could safely allow buffet dining. Social distancing measures is obviously clearly one of them. Wearing of gloves and masks is another. But then you've got it's impossible to eat with a mask on. So people are going to have to remove their masks, and therefore there's the potential to spread the virus that way. So it may be possible, but it's a lot of measures would need to be taken place before you could safely think that it was right.
We're reaching the end of this conference, but one final question, and that will be addressed to Engineer Arif Janahi and Paul. As you are aware that the testing and the temperature of people entering premises, okay, you could have the virus, but you don't have a temperature. On the other hand, you could have a temperature, but you don't have the virus. How do we overcome this issue?
Testing temperature is one of the precautionary procedures. Okay, already when you have a fever, the virus is already in your blood. This virus is very malicious, unseen, and it's acting differently on different people. There isn't any specific studies showing how it acts, and that's the issue. That's the biggest issue that's happening. Lately, the health organization announced that sterilization of streets are unrequired. But this is after all the streets were sprayed with sterilization. This is what's making this as a challenging virus, is that it's not like SARS virus, which is a type of COVID. It didn't give chance to people. It just killed them within 2 days. But COVID-19, it incubates behind the throat for from 2 days to 15 days. Then it goes to the body of the person, and it works. While it's behind of the throat, I mean, it can contagious. It is contagious. So it's contagious by the mouth, and this is what we've read, everybody. So, as the government say, wear your mask in the public areas. Always sterilize your hand. Okay, when coming home, try to sterilize yourself by changing your clothes or whatever. Imagine that you are putting your hand in an ink and going out. It's a normal thing that your face will be inked, your clothes will be inked. So all of that has to be done for the safeness of your family. It's reaching to the base of that one. How can we resolve it? We are taking precautionary measures. I mean, it's like, it's not, we cannot say it will help or not, but this is precautionary. Thank God from yesterday, the number of healed individuals is more than infected, which is a very positive sign that everything is going fine, that the government is being able to control it and see it. But as I said before, being infected by coronavirus is a personal responsibility by all. We are all responsible. Coronavirus doesn't know any race, it doesn't know any religion, it doesn't know from where you are, it just infects people. And plus to that, I mean, when you go somewhere, please be careful to keep social distancing and stay away from touching areas that are touchable. I mean, like door handles, you have to use your elbow for it. I do that when I go out because I have kids, so I'm afraid on them. And please, everybody, don't say it will never happen to me. It can happen to you. It doesn't know the difference. Some people are infected, but they don't know, and it goes away. And some people are getting the fever and that one. I know a lot of families that, a lot of friends that they got COVID-19, but they are quarantined at home because their symptoms are so small. The numbers of infected people in ICUs are very high. Okay, so they are, and one of them is a doctor. All of his family got infected. He's treating his family, and amazingly, he's treating them by vitamins, paracetamol, and eating healthy. And the strangest thing is that he's making his family do exercise more. He's saying, I'm sweating it out. It's worked with him. Within 8 days, the whole family is out of COVID. So that's the thing, is that this virus is very malicious. It's acting differently. According to the reports I have read, it changes its genetic structure 3 times. So this is not something simple to see it. Imagine it, it's like driving the car with your eyes shut. And you say, no, nothing will happen to me. I've been driving 20 years. No, it will, if your eyes are shut, it will happen something to you. I know I went out of the scope, a little bit of the question, but we are all responsible, government-wise, everything. I would like to say to everybody is that there is a lot of questions that came in. I mean, the number of questions is more than the attendees. So, I hopefully we'll see that we can make a second session, which is a Q&A, like we always do. We sit down, we talk, us openly, and if we look at this positively, this video conferencing, faraway video conferencing, it wasn't used that much, only for international use. Now we don't need it anymore. We can use it locally because a lot of times we would like to meet everybody. We would like to meet a certain sector in the industrial sector, like the security service providers. So we don't have to bring people to somewhere. We'll meet up, finish it, take the notes. All the notes are recorded, and everything will be okay, inshallah. And hopefully we will get out of this together because we are in it together. I would like to emphasize on one thing. There is a poll which will come up on your screen. Please answer it, and we'll conclude the meeting. Sorry, Adil, I went ahead of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Arif, for a very comprehensive answer. And to add to that, we're definitely heading towards a new world out there after this COVID-19. And there is one point I would like to mention. During this lockdown, there's a lot of people, they do suffer from stress, anxiety, and all sorts of things. And I would like to talk, to actually just give an advice to security guarding companies, is that the security guards, they've been placed on all different places. I mean, I've seen now guards being attacked, now guards being insulted because they're refusing entry to people to shopping malls and so on. We need them to do a bit more of conflict management, diffuse the situation. They cannot treat it the same as the old ways, okay? Not heavy-handed. So they really need to think about it before they actually say anything to these stressed people till we get over this. And as I said, it's going to be a totally new, different world after this COVID-19. I would like to thank you very much indeed on this first conference on webinar for the SPA. And I do apologize because, as I said, that we have over 450 participants and the questions are much, much higher than that. But at the end of the screen, Engineer Muhammad Saleh is going to put an SPA email address, okay? Please send your questions to that email address and we will take it to the relevant department within SIRA and we will reply to you in full, okay? So now it's actually time they've been told me to get up. Thank you very much indeed for participating and joining us on this conference, which is the first of many more to come. And I would like to ask you all, the members of the SPA and the participants, if anybody have any suggestions of topics, please email it to us and we'll definitely consider it. Okay. This is your forum, okay? And thank you very much indeed again, and wish you a happy Eid, okay? And stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all members and members of SIRA.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and before I forget, I got to thank our presenters, okay? People who actually made the time from the UK and locally here, who actually presented us with very valuable information. Okay, that is very, very useful indeed. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of them in the future. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Hadi, and happy Eid to everyone.
Thank you everyone for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you from the sunny UK.
Thank you all.
Thank you everybody for joining us, and we will be ending the session now. So thank you for your time and for your waiting on us, and hopefully we'll see you again.